Welcome to Face to Face. I am your host Upendra Mishra, and our guest today is Kim Shah. He is the CEO of KnowYourMeds. Kim, welcome to our studio.
Thank you very much, Upendra.
And thank you very much for coming on this cold day.
Pleasure.
Coldest day, I should say, of the year.
Right.
So the reason you are here because we want to talk to you about KnowYourMeds.
Okay.
And off the camera, you said that about more than 11,000 people have already downloaded this app.
Right.
So we want to know about that, who those people are, where they are located,
Sure.
and what they get out of this once they download this app.
Okay. So we started the company in the summer of 2017, and we launched the first version of the app in September last year, 2018. So between then and today, as you said, we have had over 11,000 downloads. Primarily in the US, Canada, and Mexico so far, because that's where we've concentrated our marketing efforts. In time, we will expand that into other parts of the world, especially as we add more drugs into the database. So of the 11,000 then, about 70% are women.
That's very high for just one demographic.
Yeah. Although I think when you hear about the app, it'll be a natural that it's more likely to be women who are going to be the users than men. But in any case, that is what it is. And about half the users are what we would call active users. So by that I mean that they have
not only downloaded, but they're also using it.
Yeah, they're using it, exactly, and they're getting daily updates from the app and so on. So again, when we talk more about the app.
Okay, so let's start with that. Tell us about the app, what this app is about and what it does and how it helps.
Awesome, yes. So as we said, it's called KnowYourMeds. It's available on the iPhone and Android devices as well as at the website. And it's designed really for people who are living with one or more chronic diseases. Hence, they're taking more than one drug regularly. And more now, people are becoming interested and becoming advocates for their own health. So they want to know more about what they're taking, why are they taking it, what is it doing for them. And most important of all, there is a real lack of information around what these drugs might be doing to you that's not good for you, right? Once you take drugs over a long time, there's side effects, there's adverse reactions, there's interactions between your drugs and your diet or alcohol if you're taking that. And then there's long-term issues of whether the drug is still effective over time. All those things are not very well known, and for the average person, it's just not information that's readily available anywhere. So we decided that this would be a wonderful opportunity to build an app that has a social element, which is to get this information out to the population as a whole, and at the same time it's a for-profit enterprise, so that we will find a way to monetize as well. Yeah.
So now you mentioned chronic disease. So let's talk about one chronic disease which
Right.
this app is good for. So pick one, for example.
I mean, the most obvious one is diabetes.
Diabetes.
Right.
So let's, for example, so I have a diabetes, for example,
Right.
and then I want to use this app.
Right.
So how I'm going to use this app and what it is going to do for me.
Okay. So firstly, let's just talk about how. So it's very simple. You download the app from the App Store or the Google Play or the website. Once it's downloaded, you're asked to give very basic information like your age, your gender, and your ethnicity. Nothing private, right? We don't need to know your name or anything. And we ask you to enter all your drugs, whatever drugs you might be taking. Typically, very few people have just one disease, right? Diabetes and hypertension, something else is going on. So we ask you to put in your prescription as well as any over-the-counter drugs that you might be taking on an as-needed basis. And the reason we do that is because we now know that there's a number of drugs that have similar ingredients, and the user often doesn't know, right? And I'll give you an example in a second. But the app, as soon as it sees your profile, the app says, wait a minute, we'd like to give you some information proactively. We know you're a South Asian male, we know your age, right, and so on. And we now see your diseases as well as your drugs. So we can now proactively start to feed you a lot of information about long-term effects of this drug, if two or more of your drugs might be somehow interacting with each other, contraindications, and so on. So that's what the app will do proactively for you. Also, when you enter the drugs into the app, you will be creating your own schedule for when you take which drug.
Okay.
Right? If you're only taking one drug, maybe it's not a big deal. But
Sure.
if you're taking 3, 4, 5, 10, we have people who put in 25 drugs
25
into their
drugs.
profile. It's
Sure.
mind-boggling.
Mhm.
But if you have that many drugs, there's no way you're going to remember
Sure.
right? Which one to take when, and did I take it or not, and what do I do? And so once you put all this into the app starts to send you reminders.
Mhm.
It can be on your iWatch or your phone or however, and you start getting these reminders. And at the same time, you can actually say, I took my drug or I didn't, or you can hit a snooze button and so on. And then over at the end of the month, we'll present you with like a calendar that says, in this month, how good were you at adhering to
Taking
your
the
drug
drug,
schedule,
sure.
right? Which is very important because the next time you go visit a doctor, the first 2 questions they'll ask you typically are, how have you been and what drugs have you been taking?
Sure.
Right? Both of which can rely on your memory. And you and I both know
Sure.
that's not a good
Sure,
thing.
sure.
Right? And the other thing, of course, is unfortunately or fortunately, people are living longer, so they're getting older, they're getting sicker, they're taking more drugs, and so it's like a confluence of events that is driving the demand for an app like this.
Sure.
Right? On top of that, there's another thing that's happening which I think is very positive, and that is technology, both in terms of devices, like all kinds of devices are now smart. So you stand on a scale, it sends your weight to the app. Right? You take a blood pressure measurement, it goes to the app.
So you have to enter all the information.
You have to enter, or some is becoming more and more integrated. So
Okay.
over time, we will do that. We will
Okay.
integrate these apps. So they just Bluetooth
Okay.
send the data to the app.
Okay.
So that's one thing. Second thing, of course, is you've heard this too. This whole idea about artificial intelligence insights
Which is
applied,
taking over
which
every-
is a big deal, right?
Sure.
So once we have this huge database that we're in the process of building, people and their diseases and their drugs and so on, then now we can start to look at some really interesting insights we can get out of the app with using AI. So we'll be able to start, hopefully, telling people, because of your profile, this might be something you should pay more attention to, right? Rather than less, or monitor this every day, monitor this once a year, and so on. So we'll make you really more and more engaged in your own health without making you a doctor. I mean, that's not the goal. The goal is to become more aware of your own.
Yeah. So again, going back to say, let's say I have downloaded your app and I have diabetes,
Right.
and so one advantage I have that I'll be able to input all the medicines I'm
Yes.
taking,
Right.
and that app will remind me to take all the medicines, right?
Exactly. Yes.
And the second use is that once I have given my profile,
Yeah.
the app is also going to provide me timely information
Yes.
about the drugs and
Exactly.
other stuff.
Right. There are 2 kinds of information. One, which is sort of public information. So things like the FDA might put out a warning about one of your drugs.
Okay.
There might be a contamination issue or a recall or something. That won't get to you as fast as we will get it to you now today. I mean,
Okay.
Today, in theory, this information is available.
Sure.
But you have to go looking for it.
Sure.
We will be sending it to you directly.
Okay.
Right? So that's one kind of information. Then there's research going on all over the world, right? And on various diseases and various impacts. So even trivial things like, is coffee good for you if you're a diabetic or not? Right? Or is tea good for you or this? Those kinds of nuggets of information, research is being published all the time. We'll bring that information to you as well proactively in the app. Again, based on your disease and your profile, we know. So we won't send you information on pregnancy. I mean, because
Sure.
trivial point, right?
Sure.
Because you won't
Sure.
care,
Sure.
etc. So that's that kind of information. And then the other kind of information is going to be very much this notion that because of your profile, you might be more susceptible to this kind of a side effect or a change in your body versus something else, right? If you're South Asian, your diet might be a consideration, your age is a consideration, your weight, all these things matter when
Sure.
it comes to how a body reacts to a drug.
Sure.
And so that's what we will start to do.
So what about the privacy of the data you collect?
Good question. So point one is, there is no individual data. So I don't know that this is Upendra Mishra.
Okay.
Right? All I know is that it's a South Asian male of a certain age.
Okay.
And
Do you have to put my email and all this stuff?
You have to when you register, you have to put an email, but
Email.
it's only in case you forget your password.
Okay.
Right? So we need to give you a way to link back into your account.
Okay.
But that is not connected to the other information that you're putting in.
Okay.
That's just going into a big database
Okay.
in the sky,
Okay.
where we're pulling this information, because that's the only way when somebody else comes along, we can say, oh yeah, we have many people like you in our database. so we can now start to be predictive about what you might be looking forward to.
Sure. So now another question for you is, I know your background has been more in marketing and technology companies. How did you get interested in health?
It's a good question. So as I think you know, there is a fellow called Venkat Srinivasan.
Sure.
Venkat is the chairman of KnowYourMeds, and I can honestly say that we would not have been here without his active and ongoing support.
Sure.
Venkat and I started actually talking, I would say 4 or 5 years ago, about the whole life sciences and healthcare space. We're looking for an opportunity to do something socially good, as well as build a startup company. And I had been working at Thermo Fisher for a decade.
Sure, yeah.
And in that role, I'd been interfacing with pharma companies all over the world.
Sure.
So I had a pretty good idea of how well pharma companies tracked what happens to their drugs up until the point of the drug going to market, right? All the trials that they do and the data they collect and so on. But after a drug goes to market, there's kind of a drop-off in the information being collected and being used to proactively feed back to users. So that had been on my mind as well. So when Venkat and I started talking in the summer of 17 about being what was available, we said the technologies are coming into play. All the big players like Apple and Google and Microsoft are all showing a great deal of interest in health, right? And we at the time said, what's missing in this? And we kind of, as we sat and looked at this space, we realized that this aspect was missing. This whole issue
and
around
the whole AI
drugs
is
AI
is taking
exactly,
over everything.
right,
So.
yeah. So that's really what got us here, and now it's quite a ride so far.
Yeah, excellent, good. So now, a couple of other questions for you.
Please.
One is you mentioned that also your app is quite popular in Mexico. So
Yes.
how does the language work in this app?
So that's a very good question. We started off initially with just English language because, frankly, that's where all the information is available today. And we started marketing the product in the US and Canada. And initially, of course, we thought that the app would be most useful in terms of providing information out that people would read, albeit in a much more user-friendly and understandable way than today, when you go to a Google or something. But then we quickly found out that the first users were using the app more for the pill reminder functionality and the health tracking functionality, both of which didn't require the app to be in any language.
Sure.
As long as the person interfacing with the app could write in their own language and could put down the time they're taking the drug, right, which is not language dependent, then they could use it. So the marketing team that I'm working with said to me, maybe we should try, just as an experiment, just open it up to the Mexican market or the Spanish-speaking market and see what happens. And to our surprise, the downloads just took off. So now, on an everyday basis, Mexico is number 1, US is number 2, and Canada is number 3.
Okay.
And so it's just happening. And we have not, of course, most devices in Mexico, the dialogue will already convert into Spanish just on the phone.
Okay.
So that part of it was, I didn't have to do anything for it. But now that we know that it's popular in Mexico, we're very quickly going and looking for all kinds of Spanish drug names. And exactly, put that into the app. And once we have that database complete, then we intend to go launch formally in the Latin American market.
So how do you look at KnowYourMeds in the next 5 years? Well, 5 years maybe is too long, sometime into this technology. What about next 2 or 3 years?
So just this year, we're hoping to have certainly between 1 and 2 million users by the end of the year. And I don't anticipate that this will all come simply from organic marketing like I'm doing right now, which is social media and search. So we are actually starting to talk to a number of partners, strategic partners, some of them with very large customer bases of their own, who find the idea of working with KnowYourMeds very attractive, and they'll bring KnowYourMeds into their model. Right? So I'll give you an example. A third-party administrator that sells us our health insurance. Right? I'm talking to them right now. They basically said, when they go sell medical, dental, vision insurance to a company, small company typically, they'll then say afterwards, by the way, if you want gym membership, we'll give you a discount on that. If you want some nutrition thing, we'll give you, and they'll also add KnowYourMeds now and say, and if you want to add KnowYourMeds also into the subscription, then for really almost nothing, like 50 cents a paycheck, they'll be able to add KnowYourMeds into the
So
program.
now, initially you hinted that in the end, finally one day you want to monetize.
Yes.
So what is your model on that? Have you?
Right. So once again, today it's a freemium model. So the app is free, and then if you wanted to upgrade to a premium version, you can do so for $15 per year.
Okay.
Right. We think it's a reasonable price. It's still.
So what is the difference between the basic and the premium?
Good question. So the two primary differences. One of them is that the premium allows you to create multiple profiles.
Okay.
So not just for yourself, but if you're helping take care of elderly parents, or your spouse, or children, or a friend even, or in some cases professional caregivers who come to your home and look after somebody.
Sure.
Any of those kind of needs, you can in the app create essentially an unlimited number of profiles, and so that is a premium version. There's also some other features in the premium version that we'll bring in that go beyond just the basic functionality that we talked about. Things like some smart device integration automatically, because that will cost money for me to go do too. And so that's in the premium version.
Excellent. Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I would say in summary, thank you for this opportunity.
Sure.
We feel very excited about whatever we started, which was a social app that could get out to millions of people, allow us to then collect and build this huge database through which we'll apply AI techniques for the betterment of the next person that comes along.
Excellent. Kim, thank you very much for
My
coming.
pleasure.